It is hard to find a person who hasn't been troubled by the question of what actually happens after death. Even those who hide behind cynicism and pretend not to care, in reality think about whether or not there is an afterlife, just like everyone else. Fortunately, people with the gift of clairvoyance and mediums who can speak with the dead refute the widespread belief that there is nothing beyond physical existence, that we are all destined for eternal sleep and oblivion. In fact, this is far from the truth. Life on the other side of death is far more complex and mysterious than most of us are accustomed to thinking. One of the clairvoyants who lifted the veil of the afterlife for the living was Maurice Barbanell. Thanks to him, we have the opportunity to learn about what happens after death from first-hand accounts, from those who are already on the other side. Although these accounts are delivered from beyond, they still strive to convey something important to us. Maurice Barbanell claimed to possess what is known as the direct voice phenomenon, meaning the ability to speak in the voices of the deceased. After all, they no longer have their own physical voice, but with the help of subtle energies, which can be sensed by particularly sensitive mediums, they can transmit their messages from the afterlife. Barbanell discovered his gift of direct voice as a child, and since then, he had the ability to communicate with inhabitants of other realms. Many people approached Maurice Barbanell with the hope of receiving some kind of message from their deceased loved ones. He never refused anyone, but always carefully documented every contact with the dead. As a result, he amassed an impressive collection of these transcripts, which he published in the form of books. In them, you can find answers to the question of what truly happens after a person's death. Barbanell believed that such information was unique, as it did not come from mere speculation, but from the souls who were already in the afterlife. In one of his books, Barbanell wrote the following: "It's hard to find a person who wouldn't consider death a tragic event. However, calling death a tragedy is somewhat inaccurate, as it represents the liberation of our soul from its long imprisonment in a material body. After this liberation, it is greeted by a life free of pain and suffering. According to Barbanell, the fact of death is connected with grief for those left behind, but for those who depart, it is merely a new stage of existence." Barbanell maintained that one day after the end of life, the deceased remains the same person they were the day before. Nonetheless, he noted that those who assumed that death would bring endless sleep were partially correct, as after the end of earthly existence, the soul may indeed spend some time in a sort of sleep-like state, which helps it adjust to its new life. But after this, a completely different kind of existence begins, while in some ways it is still reminiscent of the life we knew on earth. According to the medium, the main difference is that you leave behind your physical body, but your existence continues in a spiritual form, which is an exact copy of your earthly body, yet free from the typical problems associated with the flesh. Barbanell explained that the spiritual body knows neither weakness nor illness. Those who were deaf in life will hear again. Those who were mute will speak. Those who were blind will see. In short, all diseases, no matter how severe, will disappear. Old familial and friendly ties will be restored in the afterlife. In the otherworldly space, you will meet everyone who left before you, but only on the condition that you have maintained an emotional connection with them, whether it be positive in the form of love and affection, or negative, such as unresolved grievances or hatred. Those in the spiritual world possess the ability to know in advance when a person's earthly life will come to an end. Therefore, they prepare to greet the newly arrived spirit and help it undergo the necessary acclimatization. This is confirmed by the fact that some people, just before their death, claim to see their deceased relatives nearby. However, encounters with friends and loved ones in the spiritual world may be short-lived, as the law of attraction operates here. In the same otherworldly realm, only those with similar spiritual qualities will be found together. Thus, spouses who did not love each other in life will not be together in the afterlife. In one of his works titled "They Will Be Comforted," Barbanell wrote, "We are surrounded by an invisible spiritual world, and it is not located on some remote continent or another planet, but merges with our physical world." This is confirmed by those people who can attune to the vibrations of the spiritual realm, who can hear and see it. Therefore, after death, each of us will end up in that spiritual area, which corresponds to our lived life and character. Each soul will automatically find itself in the astral sphere for which it is best suited. In the afterlife, there is no pretending to be better than we are. No thought can be hidden there. Every thought will be known to everyone, meaning each person will know exactly what you truly are. In this way, no one can deceive anyone in the spiritual world. In the afterlife, the villain will remain a villain, and the kind person will remain kind. Unfortunately, it is very difficult to change this after death. That is why it is so important who a person becomes during life, the traits of character they develop, and the deeds they commit. People who have lived a normal life will find nothing to disappoint them when they arrive in the spiritual world. But a selfish person will face great difficulties due to their earthly selfish habits, which will become an obstacle in the afterlife. This will be their personal hell. Of course, those who reside on a higher plane may, if they wish, visit spirits in the lower spheres. They often do, but those in the lower realms cannot visit those on higher planes. The souls of the dead have also communicated to the medium that for many, life in the spiritual world may seem too ethereal, as only the material seems real to us. However, for those who live on the other side, only the spiritual is real, and everything physical appears as a shadow. Barbanell explained that we can form an idea of the spiritual life if we think about our dreams. When we sleep, everything in our dream seems real to us, but when we wake up, we begin to consider it something ghostly. If we were constantly in a dream state, that state would become real to us. Based on the messages from the other side, the clairvoyant asserted that life in the spiritual world is just as active as our earthly one. Every inhabitant of the afterlife begins to develop their natural inclinations there. On earth, many people have beautiful voices, but they never sing. There are many talented artists who never paint a single picture. There are many natural poets who never write a single line. They may not even be aware of their talent because their minds are preoccupied with making a living. In the spiritual world, it's the opposite. There, they will have the opportunity to devote time to their talents and develop them to their fullest potential. Many people ask Barbanell what everyday life for a soul looks like in the afterlife. He explained that while the other world does indeed have houses and clothing, creating these things doesn't require time or effort. The houses in the spiritual world are not made of bricks, but of astral fluids, constructed through the power of thought, as is everything else. According to Barbanell, the inhabitants of the spiritual world not only work but also rest and have fun. In each sphere of the afterlife, there are opportunities for learning. Those in the other world acquire new knowledge in the form they wish to receive it. Many in the spiritual world are engaged in tasks that involve cooperation with people in our world. Some of them work hard to facilitate communication between the two worlds. Others are involved in research and inventions in various fields. Some of these spirits inspire people to make certain discoveries. However, people in the earthly world often do not realize this spiritual assistance. In the afterlife, there are no language barriers, and words, which are merely an artificial and rather awkward means of communication, are not used. All ideas are conveyed through thought. Listening to Barbanell's accounts of the afterlife, one might think that earthly life is pointless, since the afterlife is better. But that is not the case. He argued that each of us has important tasks to fulfill on earth. By this, Maurice Barbanell meant spiritual service. He asserted that the only person who has truly lived a meaningful life is the one who helped guide a lost soul to the light, who created something beautiful, who helped someone in need, who healed the sick, who comforted the grieving, and so on. In one of his books, Barbanell wrote, "The most important message I received from the spiritual world was that we should never forget that the highest purpose of our life is the unfolding of the Spirit. If we strive to express all that is deepest and greatest within us, we will thereby attract the attention of beings from the spiritual world who love us, wish to help us, and, through us, help others." Feel free to comment on whether you think this medium is right, and let us know what you think awaits you in the afterlife. Don't forget to like and click the bell icon so you don't miss future videos. Thanks for watching. Wishing you all long life and well-being.